This timeless and inexhaustible virtue is an imperative for all who place a heavy weight on trustworthiness and a good reputation, who insist on keeping their word in matters great and small, who ascribe a heavy weight to accountability, and who deliver their good works and products and services as promised, when promised, in the manner promised, who are willing to stand up and be counted when it counts, and who, to the alluring temptation and the ill-advised compromise, have the power to say no. Let's consider two basic points. Number one, what is the bona fide bedrock meaning of this virtue? And number two, what are a limited number of its basic tenets? In our era, integrity means an adhesion. It radiates an adhesion. It means an adherence to principles that can withstand scrutiny and that to some extent and in some fashion contribute to the benefit of those directly involved. Adherence to a conviction necessitates a deliberate choice. The individual, the company, the partnership, the organization elects to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason by the right people. A predetermined choice. That's the key. And one cannot make that choice, ladies and gentlemen, without first thinking about it. Not necessarily the superior choice, but by all means avoidance of the wrong choice. We've lived in a period that has been marked by high-profile scandals, ethical fiascos, moral indifference, conflicted interest, cooked books, self-dealing, rank hypocrisy, sleaze. But all is not rotten in America. It's full of good people, generous people, whose lives and occupations are standing monuments to this great virtue. And one of those was a Rotarian down at Avon Park, Florida, named Franklin Ward. Like his father before him, Franklin had been active in the Groves. The Groves had been in the family for 2 generations, and they had all worked in programs to prevent the spread of citrus disease, which is a great hazard in that industry. When Ward Groves marketed its nursery stock, it was stamped disease-free. And then one morning, as Franklin Ward was walking through his groves, he saw that his young orange and grapefruit trees were dying, and the diagnosis was citrus disease. That is a highly contagious bacterial disease that's a real hazard in the industry. And the diagnosis was this citrus disease, for which there was only one remedy, and that was that Ward Groves would have to be destroyed to check the spread of the disease. But Franklin Ward didn't veer, and in the presence of agricultural officials and while graciously facing a camera-carrying media, he insisted on holding the torch and setting fire to Ward Groves. He went a step further, using an excellent set of business records and working himself into exhaustion day and night. He tracked down 500,000 seeds, buds, and unbudded stems sold to other nurseries and thereby checked the spread of citrus canker. 2 years later, somebody asked Ward about his future. He said it's still uncertain. You see, it doesn't come on the cheap. It often carries a price tag that's higher than many will pay. For holding fast to a principle can cost one a friend, a contract, a sale, a vendor, a patient, a consumer. It can stunt career advancement and render one unpopular, to say nothing of the assault on one's sense of security and the sleepless nights that go with it. Tenet number 2 is a readiness to pronounce one's beliefs. That is a tenet that is developed where there is a climate of and an encouragement of performance with integrity. In the great scheme of things, our beliefs mean nothing unless we're willing to express them. Otherwise, they rise to the level of self-indulgence. Integrity mandates that we know what we stand for, that we stand for it so that others will know too. The announcement of our convictions can have a profound effect on others even when they disagree with us. Words do mean things. For otherwise, silence installs a statement of consent and agreement with that with which we inwardly disagree. That's saying nothing, you see, is a decision in itself. In an oft-quoted statement, Martin Luther King said that the ultimate measure of the person is not found in moments of comfort and convenience, but where one stands in those hours of challenge and controversy. Another basic tenet for the practice of performance with integrity is that our actions have to be consistent with our beliefs and our convictions, our standards, and our ideals. No integrity arises from happenstance or accident. It rises when we have a resolve to translate our convictions into realities. There was a company executive in Macon, Georgia, named Herbert F. Birdsey. He was the chief executive officer of Birdsey Flour Mills, which was a major enterprise in the city of Macon, Georgia, for many decades. In the 1930s, he was president of the company with heavy business responsibilities. He was a man of strong convictions. And when the Nazis began to come to power in Germany and Adolf Hitler began his rise, Herbert Birdsey immediately saw them for what they were. He spoke out against them. He was bitterly opposed to them. By and by, World War II erupted in 1941. Herbert Birdsey was 35 years old, far beyond draft age. But he made every effort and persistently sought admission to the military. No branch of service would take him because of his age, but he finally got in the Merchant Marines. His friends and neighbors asked him what in the world was he thinking of doing this, and he said, "Look, I've been speaking out against these people for years, and it was time for me to do something about it. My country's involved." Herbert Birdsey was a seaman on the Liberty ship, the Richard H. Olney, in 1943. When a German submarine torpedoed it, the torpedo struck the engine room where he was working. He was badly burned, in part giving aid to some of his shipmates. Spent 2 years in burn centers on Sicily and at Savannah, Georgia. When the war was over, Herbert Birdsey picked up his honorable discharge, having completed his treatment for burns, and without one iota of fanfare or recognition, quietly resumed his duties at Birdsey Flour Mills. Did the man have integrity? I'll leave you with a few final thoughts. They're very brief. Whether in public service or private business, each of us is presented with difficulties and opportunities, and integrity helps us assess and understand and appropriately react to them. With integrity, good people even in trying circumstances, will make the right choice.